Okay, and you're on in 2 and 1.
Well, well, for us, it's afternoon here in California where it's burning. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be. I am Maureen Emily Windsor Craig, and this is where I'm at on Saturdays. It's 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's September the 12th, 2020. And History Reset is brought to you each Saturday at this time to bring valuable information to the public that corporate media refuse to divulge or deal with. And today we're going to go into why that is. This program is a public service, but please donate to People's Internet Radio to keep the people's truth coming at you without commercial adverts. All right. Today, we're going to look at the difference and the contrast between what is taught in the education system versus what comprises knowledge and wisdom. And the university curriculum, the pedagogy, is a dead end because what it does is it teaches theories, it teaches generalities, okay? And today we're going to look at some of the theories that it teaches and how those theories contrast with the experiences that we can actually get walking around on the ground. Okay, now there are some popular theories of ordinary people walking around on the ground that the mainstream media and the controllers do not want us to pursue. Okay, the first one is that there's secret groups controlling the world, okay, and they of course comprise Masonic orders that teach theories of metaphysics, okay, and their end goal is to create a new world order, okay, which ought to work somehow based on its theory of operation. Now, the new world order will dissolve national boundaries and people's identities and make everybody into one population. The problem is that biology doesn't operate that way. All right. There's another conspiracy theory that Obama wasn't born in the US and he may be a secret Muslim. Well, he was born in Kenya and he's an open Muslim. There's another conspiracy theory that the attacks on 9/11 were an inside job, okay? And the report that I got in 2002 from a pseudonym, Dr. Pastori, is given at abidemiracles.com, 9/11 Zionism.htm, and that link will be down below in the notes. And 9/11 was exceedingly decentralized and complex, and I have 75 or so videos from the 9/11 attack that I keep on brighteon.com in my Emily Windsor Craig channel there. You're welcome to see them if you can get in, and they're in the 9/11 and false flags playlist there. Okay, we have a lot of information about what happened on 9/11, not only to take down 7 buildings, including Building 6 that was never hit by an airplane and Building 7 that was never hit by an airplane, but 1,500 cars were crisped up to 7/10 of a mile away, up to the off-ramp on the freeway. All right, next. There's a conspiracy theory that the JFK assassination was a plot that was a wide-ranging plot between the Vatican and the intel agencies and the military, and that's been pretty well documented also. There's a conspiracy theory that aliens are contacting us. Now, This is the fundamental belief in no life but here, that colors and changes and affects all the other theories, because if there's no life but here, there's no ETs, there are no giants, there are no Bigfoot, there are no angels, there is no God. If there's nobody but here, the only evidence we ever need to look at is physical. And so the scientific practitioners take that absolutely literally. And when they take a photograph of the moon or Mars or an asteroid or a planet or something, they only activate the frequencies of the color spectrum that you call white light. They do not activate nor develop infrared. They do not activate nor develop ultraviolet. So 2/3 of the picture is missing, and this is why there is no life in NASA or astronomers' photos, because their equipment is built to exclude infrared and ultraviolet information. All right. And they have to continue to believe that there's no life but here, although Sumerian cuneiform tablets refer to Anunnaki having settled this world 450,000 years ago and genetically altered humans 208,000 years ago, and gold mining and yada yada and so forth. Okay. And we know that the Mayans and the South Americans have pictures and carvings of vehicles, space vehicles. But for the scientific community, in order to maintain their hold on grants and stipends and funding, they have to continue with the atheistic, secular, materialist belief that there's no accountability for the outcomes of human activity, as not just Lucifer's doctrine, do as thou wilt, but the whole occult strategy is that there are no natural, lawful boundaries to human behavior. And this causes the rift between natural and common law versus treaties and maritime admiralty law. This causes the difference in presumptions about rights. In natural law, the living are given unalienable rights to free speech, association, freedom from unreasonable search, habeas corpus, and so on. But in the maritime admiralty curriculum of corporate statutes, there are no limits to the behaviors that can either be required or forbidden. All right, got that? All right, and this is why there are 2 million federal laws in the United States, although we were originally based on a constitution that was just a few pages long, okay? And rule baiting has become the method for the US bureaucracy, which has been weaponized against the constitutionalists, weaponized against the people who only desire and wish to prosecute people and groups who actually do physical harm. The purpose of common and constitutional law is to enjoin harm. The purpose of maritime admiralty and administrative codes, the UCC code, is to profit and maintain bureaucracies. You notice those are 2 completely different purposes. and they are based on the official doctrine and dogma that humanity is only responsible to the winners, only responsible to the rich, only responsible to the people who control legislation. And the other people who see a higher accountability to the prime directive, to God, who is the creator of the DNA code of which we are made, of a human to their society, all of those matters of accountability are being denied by the secular nanny state. Right. The next conspiracy theory that I want to look at is the moon landing. Okay, and the moon landing was staged on a sound stage on this world in case the actual moon landing failed. But the Apollo 11 video shows, if you look at the number of people who were in the quote command module, that the moon landing didn't go the way that NASA planned. But NASA has never fessed up, nor told us, nor given us the true story of how Apollo actually happened. Okay, another conspiracy theory is that FDA is withholding the cure for cancer. Well, of course, cancer is an industry. Vaccines are an industry, okay? The tests and visits and procedures of the allopathic school are an industry, and because the United States, the West, depends on the allopathic school, which has been demeaning and discounting and diminishing alternative and safe cures for a century now, the medical care or health care in the West is the most expensive in the world and the most wasteful. Next, we can think about chemtrails. We can think about the tracks and the tic-tac-toe lines in the sky. The official story is that they don't exist. The actuality is that the people who collect the particles that chemtrails drop have found heavy metal particles, barium and aluminum, and even dangerous biologicals in those chemtrails in the sky. All right, so those are the popular conspiracy theories that the establishment, particularly academia, is here to refute. They are here to refute that there is any danger or any disinfo or misinfo from the official hierarchies. Well, you and I know that that's bullshit. Okay, so let's start looking at some of the theories which are treated and taught as knowledge. These are theories that are taught as knowledge to our young people. The scientific laws and theories you really ought to know about. Okay, there's a Big Bang theory which states that the universe originated from an original explosion, and at some point it's going to pop like a balloon. All right, well, the universe has been around for a while, and so maybe that's partly true, but maybe the universe respires like human lungs. Who knows? All right, it's just a theory. There's Hubble's law of cosmic expansion, in which, yes, we're in an expansion phase, but they haven't proven that there isn't a contraction phase. There's Kepler's laws of planetary motion. Now, I ran into this back in 2003. I don't know how many of you remember Nancy Leader, and she has been connected to some ET communications, and I'm trying to remember the name of the ET race, okay? And from 2003 on, she was she was on the receiving end of two pictures, two suns in the sky, going on year after year from 2003. And then on September the 21st, 2012, there were some transactions in the atmosphere that showed that things were changing in the sky. This was just 3 months before the end of the galactic precession of the equinoxes, which happened in December of that year. And in September, what appears to have happened is that the old sun, which is now the one that's supposedly 93 million miles away, I don't think it's that far away, but anyway, it has diminished and diminished and diminished in size, the original one. And since 2011 or 2012, we apparently have a local sun. And it has demonstrated and appeared to have some difficulties in its adjustment, and its frequencies and range appears to be different from the old natural sun. But the entire astronomical community and NASA community are completely and totally in denial about the transition from the natural to the artificial sun. And so you have to wonder where their heads are at if they can't observe and recognize and acknowledge and document a change in the nature of the sun that actually lights up our world. I mean, this is nuts. This is nuts. How come they don't notice this? All right. So we'll go to the next one, universal law of gravitation. Okay. And they insist, based on calculations, that the world that we inhabit is a spinning ball, and that there are laws of gravitation, okay, force, mass, and distance. Well, that's nice, except for a couple of problems, okay? Just from the observations of an old grandma. I don't know, do you have a washing machine in your house? If this world were spinning 1,000 miles an hour, where would the water at Antarctica be? Would it be still and quiet around the ice wall, or would it be spinning off like in a spin cycle? And that's my first question. And in my second question, if you know the difference between a fisheye lens and a conventional lens, that you realize that astronomers and NASA's and geographers' cameras are deliberately fitted with fisheye lens in order to enable and facilitate the idea that the Earth plane, the Earth mass that we're on, is a sphere. But when you look at a heads-up display on an airplane, and you look out the window of an airplane at 35,000 feet, I'm sorry, the horizon is flat. It's flat. So the spinning ball theory has some really, really difficult problems, and that being taught to all of our children brings them to a place where they presume a theory that just flat out may not be true. All right. How many things do the kids get taught that aren't actually true? Let me give you an example. When my little granddaughter was 9 years old, we were having lunch, and she excitedly told me about her school project, and they were dealing with endangered animals. Okay, they were dealing with endangered species. And at 9, she was about in the 4th grade. And she said, you know, Grandma, the teacher told us to vote and decide which of these animals was most endangered, and the one that won the most votes was the one that was most endangered. And I just sat there like, what? What does voting, what relationship does voting of the children have to do with the extent or presence or existence of endangerment on an animal? This is what the Common Core is teaching our children. Not only that, but 2 and 2 could be 5. Okay. So we have some problems with what is taught in school because it contrasts with the evidence that we can easily gather about what is actually real. All right, let's take a look at some other theories. Today we're looking at theories, scientific theories. There's the information theory. Okay. Electronic communication and computer science. They believe that computer information is real, whether it's true or not. Okay. There's game theory. John von Neumann and Oscar Morgenstern, 1944. Developed for economics. Game theory didn't quite completely revolutionize the field, but it has been widely adopted by many social sciences. And evolutionary game theory is an important branch of the study of evolutionary biology. Well, what the hell is evolutionary biology? I thought that the biological body, the physical body, is built on a DNA code, which is not unlike the computer code that runs your operating system. All right. Somebody had to write the code. I don't know how well would your computer run if it didn't have a code running it. How well would your body run if you didn't have any DNA to tell the stem cells what other cells to form now in order to do A, B, or C? All right. And so the teaching that evolution occurs because the DNA code improves and changes itself doesn't hold much water in this household, because when I have a problem with the operating system code on my computer, I have to fix it. And if my DNA code, if my body cells have a problem with the DNA code, then I have a problem with an inheritable disease, which I do. I have porphyria. And no matter what strategy or method I've tried to adopt in order to cure porphyria, the fact that it's in the DNA code doesn't fix it. So game theory, there's a quantum game theory, and that is to say you can generalize about transactions in order to maximize your outcome regardless of the outcome on anybody else. And if you want to believe that, I have a cute bridge on the East River I'd like to show you and sell to you. Okay. There's something called the oxygen theory of combustion. There's plate tectonics theory, Alfred Wegener, 1912. There's statistical mechanics, James Clerk Maxwell, late 19th century. There's special relativity, Albert Einstein, 1905. There's general relativity, Einstein, 1915. There's quantum theory, Max Planck, Einstein, Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, Erwin Schrödinger, Max Born, 1900 to 1926. Now, the tools those gentlemen were using were mathematics to get mathematics to unfold in a predictable way that also mimicked the causes and effects in the natural world and biology. Whether they did that or actually succeeded, I'm not too sure, but we don't appear to have a centralized theory of operation today that teaches the wisdom of experience and the knowledge of how to get along together, okay? Like the evolution by natural selection and even heliocentrism, okay? The problem with heliocentrism, where there are two problems. One, we have an artificial sun, and two, instead of revolving around this ball of light in space, we seem to be sitting on a landmass down in the basement of a marsh with ice and water, and we don't seem to be moving anywhere. So again, what is taught is not verifiable in terms of human experience. Okay, now in the theories of teachings, there's a theory of multiple intelligences that posits human can possess 8 different types of intelligence. Okay, so how does that affect our reality? What are the outcomes, results, and effects of 8 different types of intelligence? Does he say? No. Okay. There's Bloom's taxonomy, a hierarchical model of learning objectives. The model organizes individual educational tasks, such as comparing concepts and defining words, into 6 distinct educational categories: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Notice there's nothing in this about sensory experience or about results, effects, and outcomes on the biological entity. All right, that's Bloom's taxonomy. I call it a head trip. It's all in your head to categorize and define things in big words. Okay. There's the pedagogy of Vygotsky. Okay, his 2 most important classroom concepts are the zone of proximal development and scaffolding. Now, it doesn't say when he developed his theories, but understand, sounds like he was Russian. He was dealing with classrooms of children of the Russian culture and the Russian language in a period of time from so on to so forth. Can he generalize what he learned to all children of all cultures in all generations? No, but what happens is the university teaches this theory as if it's reality, as if this is how things work. What might be is how things work. And here we are back at the theory, what might be, versus the reality, what is. I'm not breathing enough. I have to take one of these oxygen things. Okay, it's a lozenge. It helps me. Okay, there's schema and constructivism. You have to laugh when our children are filled with theories of what might work rather than being shown and taught what does work. I love Mike Rowe's work. He works with voced kids and real hands-on skills. His objective and goal is to teach children what is real and how to get along. But Piaget's schema theory suggests new knowledge with students' existing knowledge the students will gain a deeper understanding of a new topic. Boy, talk about generalizations. Behaviorism. Behaviorism, a set of theories laid out by Skinner, suggests that all behavior is a response to an external stimulus. Wow, that's profound. And so when we can't breathe, our behavior changes. In the classroom, behaviorism is a theory that students' learning and behavior will improve in response to positive reinforcement like rewards, praise, and bonuses. Boy, that never happened in the schools I went to. In the schools I went to, when you made a mistake, you were shamed and shamed and shamed and shamed until you got it right. That's the whole foundation of the concept in Christianity, that we're all sinners anyway, and we're all just trying to learn how to get along. The behaviorist theory also asserts that negative reinforcement will cause a child to stop undesired behavior. Yes, but will it promote desirable behavior? We'll ask anybody who's been through boot camp in the military whether punishment enables and enlarges the behavior of the recruit going through boot camp. My own experience is that, yes, negative experiences that we learn the hard way do, in fact, push us forward into learning what we need to know to do things better. All right. The theory of behaviorism is frequently criticized for failing to consider students' internal mental states, as well as for sometimes creating the appearance of bribery and coercion. Absolutely, absolutely. And you and I know that a teacher who is always nice and always polite and always says the right thing and always leads toward the positive, before long is the object of a great deal of ridicule and derision, because we all know that the way we learn best is by making mistakes and learning from the mistakes, is by adapting to the problem of remorse, denial, shame, fear, adapting to the difficult and unpleasant feelings of not doing well by learning how to do better. All right. And so our children learn these theories, and the universities teach these theories. And there are 5 most common political systems around the world, and they'll teach what might work. Never mind the outcomes for this particular theory of operation, what might work under this idea, or theory of operation, what might work under that idea. Okay? When we speak of political systems, it's difficult to determine what the most common types are. After all, many political systems are similar or have similar roots. Many countries actually have republics of some kind, variants of democracy. As you study political science, it can be helpful to understand some of the most common types of political systems from around the world. Notice they're not saying anything about the laws of causes and effects, the laws of behaviors and outcomes, the laws of ideals versus methods. All right? That's what is lacking, and that's why the young people today, having been taught theory after theory after theory after theory, don't know what works. And so they're trying the Marxist theory of disrupting everything. Okay, we have democracy, we have republic, we have monarchy, we have communism, and we have dictatorship. And any two of these elements can combine, because a democracy wherein true information cannot be known, the 51% are going to vote for what they prefer, never mind what's true. In a republic wherein the winners, the established, the peerage, have total control over legislation, enactment, and enforcement, okay, in a republic, the rich always dominate. It's never any different. In a monarchy can go two ways. A monarch, if you look at the powers given to the monarch to contradict and overrule the legislature, or overrule any given piece of legislation if it's unreasonable, a monarch can serve as a source of conflict and dispute resolution, mediation, arbitration, conciliation, and facilitation, if they have the skills to do that. Unfortunately, in England, since Victoria's husband Albert died and she went deep into the occult, England has followed the Luciferian, occult, New Age, what do you call it, doctrine and dogma of Marxism, in order to bring about an empire that its leadership layer equated with the British Empire. We had a British Empire. Now we're going to have a globalist empire. Okay. And since 1871, when Albert Pike, the Grand Commander of the Masonic Order, he was in California. He wrote to a doctor, I think it was Pacini in Italy, in order to stage 3 world wars. And he described the 3 world wars in detail. And because he was a Scottish Rite Mason, he was able to pull in all the other Masonic orders in on that directive, all right? So that England has been instrumental in creating, through the Masons and the peerage and their church, which is a nondescript Protestant, egalitarian, politically correct church, has pulled England into the idea that there is no higher accountability to a god or angels. There are no ETs, there are no giants, there are no Bigfoot. There's nobody but us. We can do whatever we want. And so England has become one of the most nihilistic, cynical cultures, political cultures on the planet. Serial wars, the whole 9 yards. Okay. They've been involved in drug running since the East India Company, and selling armaments and selling their war machines. And that's really sad. My dad opposed that whole idea. He was pro-union, and he helped the unions articulate their case against the excesses of the robber barons of the early 1900s. My dad was born in 1894, and that means that he would be 126 this year. All right. So that was a long time ago. Edward VIII was not a monarchist after the same cloth as his brother, who became George VI. George VI followed the Masonic, occult, Marxist model of a new world order. All right, but there's still a chance, because England has recognized that its royal family has deteriorated and its behavior has compromised the vows that are made by the monarch. The English and Irish and Welsh and Scottish, have I forgotten anybody? People of England have come around to realize that they have no power to confront or correct this globalist Marxist revolution. So I'm hoping they will figure out that they need a new monarch who has the powers of monarchy to serve as conflict and dispute resolver, mediator, arbitrator, conciliator, and that the monarchy should, in fact, cultivate those skills of mediation in order to be effective in a diverse world. Okay, so that's my take on monarchy. Now, communism is a leveling force that says that everybody is the same. In other words, if we were in the ocean, all the fish are the same. And if we were in the meadow, all of the animals and birds and bugs are the same. And if we were on the mountain, all the predators are the same. This is what communism says, and it insists that everyone is entitled to a basic survival level of existence. But since nobody wants to work under that rule, they force people to do whatever they want people to do. And so communism historically has proven to be a very totalitarian system wherever it is, all right? And dictatorship, of course, is what has to rule communism, because people are not willing to be considered as just like the slob down the street who doesn't want to work. Okay, these are methods how things ought to work, which are promulgated and propagated and talked about in the media endlessly. They talk about this socialist wanting this and this corporatist wanting that, and everybody has their wants and their wishes and their beliefs, but the method for collecting a consensus about how to solve a problem is absent from the mainstream media, is absent from the television, is absent from everywhere but from the videos, the independent creator videos that are on Vimeo and YouTube and Brighteon and here and there. People get bright ideas. Oh, this is how we can do this, and this is how we can do that. And independent creators, are the ones who are going to show us the way out of this mess. And the ones who are particularly skilled, we hope, are going to show us how to get out of the political mess. Because what we have to do is create consensus around solving one problem after another. Okay, we have to solve this larger problem, and then this next problem, and this next problem, because life is a series of opportunities and options to make things better for more and more people. If you just sit back and say, God is going to rescue me, I'm going to be raptured, I don't have to worry about any of this, you're dreaming, baby. Because God didn't create us to be helpless cattle in a paddock. He created us to learn and grow and progress and become skilled. Okay, God is skilled as a coder and as a recycler. He recycles everything on our world. Everything gets recycled eventually. Okay, it either burns or it goes into solution. Everything gets recycled, and we have to learn how to do that too. All right, so that's our problem with governance, is we do not have tools for creating consensus around solving regional and local problems. Further, with the directed energy weapons having been documented to have been used in the California fires, and those directed energy weapons are in compliance with the United Nations Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 stipulations that the rural areas are to be emptied and all of the people are to be moved into little boxes in the city so that people are controlled and dominated in the cities, and the area between the cities are relinquished back to nature. Okay, well, the method for doing this, okay, for clearing the rural areas is directed energy weapons and fires. And this has been going on for 5 years I know of. The first house I had in Middletown burned in the Valley Fire. I moved to Hedden Valley. The second fire came within a quarter of a mile of that house. Okay, I moved here. Then the following year, it took out Paradise and Berryessa and Santa Rosa. And now there's a Willow Fire that's bringing the fire down to Marysville. So the fire is getting closer every time. And where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? But this is official method of the United Nations Agenda 21. So there's no doubt when Dutch Sense and Logic Before Authority show pictures of the infrared beam and the places under the infrared beam start burning, there's no question that these fires are started intentionally. Now, some fires up in Oregon have been found to have been started by human beings, political human beings, who just happen to be members of Antifa because they are promoting the Marxist method, which is to destroy civil society and replace it with one person is just like every other person, socialism and communism. That's the idea that the Marxists have taken from Russia and China and Cuba and Venezuela and brought here to our continent now. This is our apocalypse, the Marxist revolution in America today. Okay, that's what we have to deal with. All right. And the children in grammar school are taught that all people are equal. They are taught that all religions are equal, regardless of the teachings of religion. Now, let's think about that for a minute. I happen to be a kind of a fan of religious communities. I've looked into religious communities for years and years and years. Well, in my previous lives, I was part of a convent and a charismatic community. And I challenge any of you to show me when or where an Amishman, a Mennonite, a Quaker, a Bruderhof, or a 12 tribes Christian have ever harmed anybody, ever. They don't harm anyone because their ethos, their ethic is to do no harm. Okay. If you look at the ethic, the 52 teachings of the Sikh Dharma, you see that it's all benevolent. It's all to get along and work hard and be honest and treat people decently. Okay? That's the ethic of some religions, but not all religions. Okay. There is a religion that teaches taqiyya, which is treachery, jizya, which is protection tax racketeering, and jihad, which is sedition. And I'll let you name that one. Okay. And clearly, the people in that religion who follow those behaviors are constantly in trouble in the West because treachery, protection tax racketeering, and sedition are unlawful in the West. Of course, they don't fit. All of their other social values aside, those three provoke a great amount of unrest and difficulty in the West because treachery, protection rackets, and sedition undermine the whole social structure wherever it shows up. Now, those three practices are also implied in some of the Talmudic practices. They're also implied in the use of maritime admiralty statutes and trade treaties. You want to see treachery, protection, racketeering, and sedition? Look at the Codex Alimentarius, which was passed about 10 years ago as a trade treaty. And its objective, stated objective, was to eliminate 1 billion people by starvation and malnutrition in order to relieve the congestion of too many people on the world. Now, is that insidious or what? All right. Look at Codex Alimentarius, which international grocery distribution has put into effect. And Codex Alimentarius is the reason why we need to grow as much of our own food as possible and buy from local farmers and interact and cooperate with each other, because the international rules for trading groceries enable the most egregious bad practices. Okay, and you have to read the Codex to see exactly what I'm talking about. All right. The trade treaties that the governments sign in order to do international commerce contain no references to rights to life, to any rights whatsoever to human beings. All right. They are written from the cynical, mercenary side of the law, which comes to us from the Tartarian Empire, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire. All the empires going back were mercantile, business only. They had slavery, they had child sex trafficking, they had drug running and gun running and serial wars. That's why we see that, because globalism includes, okay, treachery, protection rackets, and sedition. That's globalism right there. Holy cow, look at the time. All right, so let's talk about what our children actually need to learn. There was a time, this is from Public Schooling Standardized Test in the Surveillance State, Joseph Farrell and Gary Lawrance. There was a time when learning was a deliberate and reasonable, logical human pilgrimage, when the method of teaching was relational and personal, where provocative sparks of information created pathways to new ideas, not to violence. Aha moments of discovery in students created by the intelligent, calculated steps of a teacher who knew the kids nearly as well as the parent knew the kids. A parent or a superior teacher who recognized the facial expressions and the body language, who knew the right moment to lead a child to ask the critical question, and who would brilliantly make use of the pause to allow that student to think, reason, and discover within themselves a whole litany of questions that follow before an answer is found. And that led to the next round of questions to be researched. You see, education used to be by questioning and deep diving into real experience. Development of character happens in the discipline of work and an education that feeds immediate answers without the mind at work. It's not an education at all. Certitude and dependence on the machine that feeds fast food replies satisfies a nanosecond of curiosity with the right answer. Dare we say that the answer is not always the right answer, and the day has already arrived when we must be told, who are you to question Google? Did you know more than Google? The expert is handed handed the silver while the machine has already taken the gold, you see. Our new methods of learning are not educating our children to understand the rules of cause and effect, to understand the sequence of events that occurs that enable skills, okay? We need to return to the methods that are shown by Mike Rowe, the voc ed teacher of all time, to teach our children wisdom from experience and not these derived theories, because the theories don't go anywhere. All they do is fill up our children's minds with stuff they have to regurgitate. The theories are not helping us, the people, solve the problems we need to solve to get where we need to go. Now, the reason that President Trump has been so successful in solving some problems is because he does not operate from theories or from ideologies. He operates from the conditions on the ground so that he can make things get better. We need more of that, not less. Okay, so this is today's history reset. Yes, and it's about turning our attention to what are we teaching each other and our children in the school and in the university that isn't just theories about theories and lemmas and hypotheses and wishful thinking. We need to get our feet on the ground and solve our problems so that we can get through this apocalypse. It's going to be a hard road to hoe, but that's okay. We're learning from it, all right? In the learning how to cope with what's going on, one of the topics I've been thinking about is how to cope with the 5G rollout, and I'm working on some strategies to do that. I think I'll probably pick that up next week because it's a topic that takes more than 3.5 minutes to deal with. The first strategy I would suggest to you, though, is to get one of those little test equipments, tester that tests for radiation, and check around your house where the radiation is and where the radiation isn't, and spend your time where the radiation isn't. And in my case, I had to change the room where I was sleeping because the room, my bedroom, was being bathed, okay, in the currents off the power lines going by the window. So I had to change the room that I'm sleeping in, and I feel so much better and I'm so much more rested. So that's my only suggestion for today as far as 5G. And now I've got to go because you've got to, I think Stephen wants to take over and have one of his little test programs, which people enjoy so much. Hey, Steve, what's going? Are you there? Oh, you're there? I've done it. I've done it. It's been a whole hour.
Yeah, and your voice held up too.
My voice did hold up, and I hope that it made sense.
Yeah, Stephen's about ready for the show. So
okay, all right. You guys have a good time, and I'll see you next week. Love you, dear. Love you, dear. Bye-bye. All right, now we're back here. All right, we're back here. All right, so our children are subject to too much bullshit in school, and I hope now that the kids are home and you're actually reading their textbooks, you can detect that they're being taught a lot of false values and theoretical, these theories and these definitions that just don't go anywhere, don't teach any skills, and don't help. I hope you have been able to see that today. And so this has been Maureen Emily Craig, and it has been History Reset. And we don't have a whole lot of comments. That's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind. I did my homework. Now you do yours. See you next week. Bye-bye.